Hey everybody. I'm going to actually, the stream's going to go live here in a minute. Let me just share this sucker real quick. I'm going to play a little bit for you just because I need to practice something and I think it'd be fun. Give me just 1 second. You guys are coming on in. Come on and say hello. This will be real quick. One last thing. Darn it. Facebook not being my friend this morning. Felt like today's a good day to play my telly. I've got my students at the conservatory doing auditions for other conservatories after the first of the year, and I got the requirements for what they're doing, and I was like, oh, you know what? Perhaps I ought to learn some of these tunes. So I'm going to be playing with. I'm using iRealB, this app here. There we go. On my phone, play through my Bluetooth speaker, see if that does anything better. Oops. Let me find the song here. This is a great application because it allows you to basically play full chords. Actually, I can bring it up on my iPad. If I play it back through the iPad, there's a synchronization issue we've discovered. So I can go through the songs. This is the song I'm going to be doing. And I can play it. Great practice tool. You can use this all the time. It's nice because it's you can actually change tempos. You can change keys. Like say it's got a mixer on it. If I stop this for a second. Say I want to play it in the key of A flat. It'll transpose it. Flat. So I don't know what in A flat though. I know in the original key. So I'm gonna play for a minute, partially to warm up. I literally just woke up. And also to let people kind of come in. Actually. I actually started a few minutes late, I think, because my dogs were barking like crazy. Didn't know if you guys wanted to hear my dogs barking. Oh. Alright, so I'm going to play this off my phone, and then you're going to hear it through the speaker, and it's actually going to not suck. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. It's like one of those songs that you learn for college, and then either if you don't play jazz gigs, you end up having to relearn it to teach your students. Oops. Actually, let's try this one more time, make sure I get all 4 counts. Ah! But the count-off's weird. 2, 4. Okay. Actually, the display is weird. I shouldn't look at the display. 2, 3. Pretty weak, but part of this is just wanting to warm up. So is there actually anybody here this morning? Good question. I got one viewer. Hey Tom, how's it going? Oops. For some reason. There we go. Figured I'd play my Telecaster this morning. How's the sound? Oh, howdy, Howie. Cool. Okay, let me tune this thing. So I've got, like I think I was discovering last time, you guys are getting a little bit of the direct sound. Oops, actually, the direct sound. How's that? That's the iridium actually turned on properly. And then a little bit of the microphone. So, yeah, that's stuff I want to talk about today, but I'm going to kind of wait till some folks kind of roll in, although I will answer questions. Let's see. So this is the clean sound. I was actually using the M drive to fatten this up, because here's the telly with the clean. There's the M drive. I don't even know if you can tell the difference through the internet. And then here's the that's the Archer. Shoot, maybe I'll play a little bit more. I'm like super rusty and kind of cold this morning, so who knows, maybe I'll sing. You guys have the power to stop the music and ask some questions. Now I'll tell you about my baby. Speak of her with pride. She goes all the way just to make me satisfied. Now she's my baby. She's my baby, can't you see? Now you can't call her sugar. She never was so sweet. Now it ain't no surprise she serves me breakfast in the bed, manicures my nails, scratches the dinner from my head. Now she's my baby, she's my baby, can't you see? Now you can't call her sugar, sugar never was so sweet. Now it ain't no surprise she serves me breakfast in the bed, manicures my nails, scratch a dinner from my head. Now she's my baby, she's my baby, can't you see? Now you can't call her sugar, sugar never was so sweet. Now you can't call her sugar, sugar never was so sweet. Now you can't call her sugar, sugar never was so sweet. I screwed that up. Hang on just a second. All right. So, that's actually going to kind of tie into some of the stuff I wanted to talk to later, just the rhythm guitar part of it. Let me see, we got a question here. I have an old school problem. Need to mic my amp to get the reverb and the tremolo sounds recorded. Recording at sane levels. Well, okay, so the first question about that is, what's the wattage of the amp? I know you probably live in a like an apartment kind of setting. All right, so miking the amp means that you've got to have actual sound happening out in the world, which means that you know, you've got this thing going on where either you're running the full fury of the power section, or you've got some way of bringing it down, like a hot plate or something like that. I'm getting messages from people about lessons later in the day. I have to check that in a second. Um, the probably the easiest thing to do is to stick the amp in a closet, and mic it, and then maybe put a blanket over it or around it or something like that. It's kind of hard because you're transmitting vibrations directly to whatever homes are around you, because you're living in the same building. This is a great time to be a guitar player if you have the funds to invest in something like a HX Stomp or like I use the Iridium almost exclusively right now. I also use other software too, like I've got Positive Grid's bias. I've got the amp and the effects, so you can do everything in the computer directly and still get decent sounds, especially if you use impulse responses. I'm dabbling a little bit with that stuff right now. The Iridium is kind of the greatest thing ever for me, because I do everything direct, partially because I've got barking dogs all the time, and this is my garage, and my neighbors are running table saws all the time, and I don't live in a very safe and sane environment for recording. I can probably be as loud as I needed to, but I can't get away with having an open microphone here and not getting other sounds on it. All right, so that becomes an issue for me. That's one reason why I do so much direct recording. And like you guys have heard on the backing tracks, it seems to work pretty good. If I had to mic this though, this space doesn't have any kind of enclosed space. There's no closet. There's no vault for me to put the amp in. I could probably do that at some point, or an isolation box. Without spending any money, I think the closet, the Sean Tubbs approach is probably the best way to go. Especially if you need to crank the amp up at all. Whatever lowest power mode you can run the amp in is probably the best thing. So does that answer your question? Also, like if you're recording, let me ask you one other question. What software are you using right now? That's kind of part of it. Hang on a second. While I'm waiting for your answer, I'm going to answer these two student messages about later lessons. Joe's about live streaming right before my lesson time. I'm live on YouTube right. Hey Terry. Okay, so you discovered what I was going to type you. Yes, we can do your lesson. At the end of this, Terry, we'll do your lesson. that saves me from typing during a live stream. Okay, so back to Howie's question. GarageBand is also tricky because I don't think you can use plugins and all that other stuff. Hang on a second. So you're kind of like you're basically having to put a mic in front of it to get the whole sound. In that case. Yeah. Reaper. It might be cool to learn how to use Reaper. There's a lot of guys on the forum, and I think with Reaper you can use all kinds of plugins and stuff. You can actually start using some of the software stuff without spending a bunch of money. All right, so Steve, for mics, I can play at a level that would work, but I have GarageBand right now. I love Logic. Logic is awesome for all kinds of reasons. One of them is that it's incredibly easy to throw together backing tracks. I like the drummer AI. If you guys on the arranging guitars video, there's a whole thing with not a whole thing. Sorry, my brain's going two different directions. I'm basically using for the drums the drummer feature of Logic to create that very very realistic sounding drum set. So you can do things really easily, as well as do all the traditional DAW things. It's got like amp simulators and all that junk. I've never used any of them because I'm assuming they're not as good as the other stuff that I own. But there's so many things you can do. Logic is awesome. Reaper, you can do a ton of stuff for free with Reaper. And the best part about Reaper is that if you're part of our forum, the markweinguitarlessons.com forum, there are a ton of people like Mike Walters and Ken. I'm drawing a blank on his forum name right now, but there's a bunch of people that use Reaper to great aplomb that are a good resource if you have questions about it. That would be my suggestion. I don't think anybody really needs to use GarageBand anymore. But if you can spend $200 on Logic, it's the best $200 you'll spend this year. If you can't spend the money or don't want to spend the money, then Reaper is probably the way to go. And I've heard so many great recordings coming out of Reaper, and I don't hear anybody complain about it. I think that's the best recommendation I give for Reaper. I've never used it because I've never had to. I've been Pro Tools up until this year. And this year I switched to Logic. Pro Tools and Logic are both great, except for Pro Tools you end up paying a subscription these days, and Logic you pay for once every version essentially. So I like it. Reaper is free. It's probably one of those things that has like a donation page. I don't know if there's anything that you have to pay for in order to get the full features out of it, but I would investigate that if you're really looking at wanting to do some home recording. It's not a lot of times I don't like using free software like that because it's usually not very full feature, but it seems like you can pretty much do anything in Reaper that we would need to get out of like Pro Tools. Not as much Logic. Logic has a lot of stuff built into it that makes life really easy, but you have to be an Apple person, and it helps to have like I just literally had to buy a brand new computer this past week because my laptop was getting long in the tooth to do certain things. Not as much with Logic, but like I know a bunch of you guys are Apple guys, and we tend to keep these computers for decades, sometimes or 5, 6, 7 years, or even 10 or 11 years. And they work for a lot of things, but then they get long in the tooth for doing like video or audio processing. So, but Reaper is great if you're, it sounds like you can run Reaper on a not super powerful PC laptop and still get what you need out of it. So, kind of food for thought. That's a good question. I almost was thinking, hey, you know what we could do? Dig this. This computer. Watch me just destroy everything right now. I'll give you guys an example. I'm pretty sure I can run a Logic session live here. Logic it takes a little bit of work. So let's do this. This will be fun. I can share my screen. There we go. So I just brought up this session. This may confuse everything. You guys can still hear me fine, right? I just didn't screw up the broadcast audio. All right, so I'm going to new from template. Actually, you know what? Let's just do just fresh new. All right, so let's make a software. Let's make a drummer first. Ta-da! So we've got these virtual drummers. I can't believe this is what we're doing with our live stream today, but this will be fun. So if I hit play here, and what is neat about this is that I can choose Let's see if I can remember how this works. Okay, so there's the drummer guy. Oh, okay, so you can pick your library of drummers. Okay. So this is Logan, and Logan has a backstory here. He's inspired by legendary drum heroes of the past. Plays hard-hitting rock beats. What we'll do is we'll loop this part. This is it's cool for you guys to see just how easy all this stuff is. You know, it's so we're gonna keep that looped. How about Anders? He's a massive sounding kid. Max plays punk. Actually looks like a guy from Green Day. Alright, and once you pick a drummer, here's Jesse, he plays funk rock. And then down here, in the drum plugin part, you can control which parts of the drum set we're hearing right now. Alright, so just kick and snare. Let's do hi-hat. Or let's do more of a ride, like a cymbal kind of deal. Let's put some toms in here. Alright, this part over here, and this is, I think you get this in GarageBand too. We want it loud and we want it simple. We drive it up there. We want it quiet and simple. Alright, so you just kind of put it where you want it on the spectrum. So there's all these things that you can do to mess with this. You want it to swing a little bit. Kind of terrible when it swings. So it's... And you got different patterns. Alright. The other thing that's cool about this is you see down here where it says follow, we don't have any tracks set up. But if I was to record, this is going to sound terrible, but let's see if I can record something. So let's make a new track, new audio track. Record, as long as I keep the input. Alright, so I'm gonna I'll just play some garbage over this. Okay. Did it record anything? Or did I have the input set wrong? Check. Check. Oh, alright. Sorry. Coming to the wrong place. Okay, so there's a part right there. If I want to, I can just take that and loop it. Ta-da! And then we can loop this. Oops. Rid of that for a second. And it goes on forever. So when I do this, if we go back to our drums here, hey, let's follow audio 1. You just adjust it to taste. Alright, it's got a full range of software instruments and things like that, but just having this drummer app makes everything easier. So if I wanted to, so I've got that. Instant backing track. Alright. I've got a ton of software instruments in here, pianos and strings and things like that. I don't have the keyboards set up. I literally could, if I wanted to. Let's make a new software instrument track. So this is my And I can go in here and say, hey, you know what? Let's, I think in this, pick what you got here. Addictive keys. Ooh, Waves clavinet. All right. And then I can either play it in. We're still live, right? Yeah. All right. I'm going to check this in just a second. All right, so I've just got a part here, and I can, oops, do it in MIDI. Okay, thanks. It's just my, it looks frozen on my iPad for some reason, my monitor. So I should be able to view this guy as MIDI. What am I doing wrong? Oh. Oh, it's because I recorded it at the wrong track. Take this guy out of record because I'm a dummy. I'll try it one more time with the clav. Oh, Mr. Clavinet, where'd you go? Two, three, four. All right, so that's terrible. Did it record? It's awesome when you okay. So I think Logic's not agreeing with this because I've got the live stream going at the same time. But hopefully you guys get the idea. Let's not save that. Logic is really, really cool. Let me hit the, all right. GarageBand, a lot of what I need, but Logic Pro has a lot more options. Yeah, so GarageBand is great if you're just getting started. But literally it's for just getting started. I'll be rude and eat on here. In case you guys haven't noticed, the swelling has kind of gone down. I don't look like a Disney chipmunk anymore. But I had to take my antibiotics before I started here, so I'm kind of like, my stomach's off. Yeah, Logic Pro is a professional DAW. You know, it does everything that you would need to make albums, and people make albums on them. People make albums on their laptops, like Billie Eilish. You know, her brother basically produces her albums on his MacBook, and then, you know, they record some things live. But if you do electronic music, it's pretty awesome. There's so many features, but it's also good. You can do, you know, you can record full albums just like Pro Tools in that regard too. So it just depends on what you prefer. I'm actually enjoying the transition to Logic because I do everything literally here in the box. If I was doing full album stuff, I don't know. My friends still use Pro Tools, but I don't know. I'm just really used to Logic now. I haven't spent that much time on GarageBand to really know. You know, I've looked at it. I've used it when I was in college to make compositions in a hurry. But is my video still streaming? Oh, actually, here's a good answer for you. So Daniel, who's made many albums, and I'm assuming you've done most of them in GarageBand. And the way you're answering this, yeah, but it's just not designed. It's a consumer thing, and it's designed to get people started, and then basically designed to get them wanting to actually spend the money on Logic. It just depends on what your needs are. You know, for me, I need the full featured thing because I'm doing actual production here. If you're just doing demos or practice stuff, probably GarageBand is pretty decent. So. Okay, so Terry, you've actually done recordings with GarageBand. Okay, so that works out. You guys probably know more about GarageBand than I do then at this point. Let's actually, you guys are having a good conversation, so I'm going to stick them here. Studio One is PreSonus, right? Is that what you get with a PreSonus interface? Which I have a PreSonus Digimax. You know the bummer about hardware is that you spend a ton of money on stuff sometimes. You know, and then they're just not like this was. You know, this is a Pro Tools, the 003 rack. It was like the better of the non-professional, non-card type Pro Tools rigs. We had it in our studio, and then this PreSonus Digimax was basically my way of getting another 8 tracks, so I could run 16 tracks of digital audio when we had Premiere Music. And I thought, you know what, it'd be kind of cool. Like, I've got my Apogee Duet here, and the Duet is great. It sounds good, and you know, I've had it for a while. But it does a really good job, and it's really convenient. But I wish I had like 1 or 2 more inputs on it. At some point, I'm probably gonna move to a 4-input thing. But I was thinking, hey, you know what? For some of this stuff, I could probably use the extra inputs coming out of those things. But you know, it's FireWire, and this one I can do 8-out, like optical, but I don't have any way of getting that into the computer. Also, somebody from Premiere broke a knob off on channel 5 here. So I'm actually looking at maybe eventually, not anytime soon, because I literally just replaced a ton of my computer and other things. But replacing the Apogee Duet with like one of those Universal Audio things. And the cool thing about Universal Audio is it comes with a ton of their plugins. Like, you get like a ton of free software. But they make one that's got 2 mic inputs and then also a third 1/4-inch input. So I could actually leave like a direct cable plugged in. And then if I wanted to, for this, I could actually run a microphone on my amp and then my vocal mic, and then have the direct in for something else as well. Anyway, it would make my workflow a lot easier instead of plugging and unplugging stuff out of my Duet. But unfortunately, neither of these really expensive devices will plug into my current computer. So that's good times. So Daniel, are they basically sending you submixes of that stuff for you to play with, and then is there one person that's kind of like the clearinghouse for all the tracks, and they're doing all of the major mixing and combining, or like how is that working? You guys working at home? Like Charles Smurfco, like he does a ton of stuff at home, and their bass player does stuff at her home, and then the drummer is kind of like the guy that actually does all of the actual construction of the tracks and then the mixing and everything. I'm always curious how people do these things. I remember several years ago, a friend of mine asked me to play guitar on some stuff for a TV show in Russia, and it just cracked me up that I could sit here in my garage and record a bunch of Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of bluesy things, and they're on Russian TV, and I never heard them ever again. Looks like I have other. I guess I'll wait for my thing here. Focusrite. Yeah, Jam Kazam is one of those things. I think you have to have a hard wire. Like here, I don't have everything's Wi-Fi here in my studio. I would have to run a cable out from our router in the house. There's also this other thing that our school is looking into, and I'll have to find the link to it. But if you're within like 50 miles of somebody, I think, you're actually able to play almost instantaneously. It's really cool, but it's not Jam Kazam. I have not actually used Jam Kazam or seen anybody use it, but it sounds like there's a few people on the forum that are. So Jam Kazam, I'm curious about that stuff because I'll be honest, I really miss playing live. I say this probably every week. Okay, so let me go back to our. Okay, so Daniel, for your projects, you guys have a central clearinghouse. Yeah, you know, it's funny because we're having this conversation here, and if we, the forum's kind of designed to have these conversations, and we don't really use them as much as we could. But oh, Jam Kazam is charging. Oh, and Terry lives the life. Terry lives in an area where he's actually able to play shows, which I'm very jealous of, and I'll hear about during his lesson later on. Yeah, I was talking to my wife about the gig thing last night, and like this is the part of the year where we normally have all of our Christmas gigs, and we've got my calendar still has a lot of the stuff that was booked for the entire year on it. So like I'll get notifications, time to leave for the Blue Beat, time to leave for whatever, and it's like the ghost of my live playing career. But then also at the school, like tonight we're having the jazz guitar class recital, and we're doing it over Zoom instead of actually playing together. It's just kind of a it's a weird year, and it is what it is, and there's some cool things that have come of it, but man, I miss playing music with other people. And even for the conservatory, we do this thing where I take the kids around and they do corporate Christmas parties and things like that, and they're very talented. I mean, they're good enough to do the gigs, and the client pays. It's like a fundraiser for the school. It takes a ton of money to run that school. And I even miss doing those things where I'm standing around being the chaperone, But it is what it is. A few months from now, hopefully, we'll get back to the point where I can actually play out, because I miss it. And Terry's playing more blues gigs than me too, which is just really making me jealous. So all right, so let's I'll probably end up cutting this short at 9:30, so I can actually start Terry's lesson. Do you guys have any questions? Other questions? I am very excited about getting to work on my pedal board. I'm trying to decide if I just want to get a piece of 1/4-inch plywood and just bolt it to the top of my pedal train board, or do something different. But I've got everything I actually need. I like adding I added the J Rocket Archer pedal. I foresee being able to use that. So, and I've got one more spot on the ES8 open. I was thinking that maybe getting some sort of like either heavier distortion or a fuzz. There's other things I would like, but I don't necessarily know how much I would use. I always love the idea of some of the Electro-Harmonix keyboard pedals. I don't know. And then I've got the Eventide H9. Somebody hit me the thing that you can actually run the inputs where you could have it both before and after the switcher. It's like Schrodinger's pedal. You can run it pre and post at the same time, depending on how the software works. So I can have like my synthesizer and octave sounds before everything, and then I can have my reverbs and delays afterwards. You just have to run the cabling for that. So I'm actually, there's a lot of stuff that I can do to dial this in and everything. So yeah, so far I'm digging the Archer. I want to get it next to a drum set. You know, that's, you know, I do this stuff and then I go play gigs, and then it's funny what survives. There's certain things like the hopefully this isn't too loud. It's kind of messed up right now. That revival drive, it's really abrasive like this, but it's like perfect like once you get it in a live setting, you know, for a lot of the stuff that I do where it's like me and then when I put like my Les Paul in front of it, it's bigger and chunkier and stuff. So, you know, I've been messing around with the other. So that's the other side of the revival drive. I've got set up. So I've got all these like, here's the M drive, which is like, you know, you want your clean sound but fatter. That works that way, right? And then I've got the so that's kind of my slightly overdriven Marshall. It's actually a little crunchier than I was running before. Right, and when I run it like that, and then I've got the amp cranked up, and especially if I'm using my Les Paul, that works good. And then I've got that works for great. And then the Archer, sometimes I just want that upper mid range. I just don't like tube screamers. I like when other people use tube screamers. I just can't make them sound very good. Alright, so that's... I kind of finally get the Klon thing, you know, after owning a couple of, or trying a couple of different clones over the years. But then, I mean, even just the clean sound with the that's my Spark Mini, the boost I use for solos and stuff. And I've even just run that this way. It looks like it's crunching the heck out of everything. It's too loud. So I don't know. It'd be nice if I had something super crazy heavy, or fuzzy. Let me roll back here in the comments. So Terry loves the Archer. I'm starting to love the Archer. I don't know if I have it all the time. You know, the thing with Helix and actual pedals, you know, I will preface this with the fact that outside of like a trade show, I've never played the Helix, and I've heard some really good things. I know some people that are just using like the HX Stomp as their main rig, and for a while, like I was kind of like, do I want to do the Iridium for the direct part of this, or do I want to do the HX Stomp? And I kind of figured that because of how I'm using this, the Iridium would work best because I'm literally just duplicating my amp sound on stage. Whereas the HX Stomp has this whole ecosystem of effects and different amps and things that you can do. So the Helix is, I think you can use the Helix, if someone correct me if I'm wrong, but you can use the Helix just as the effects, I think, without the amps turned on, or you can use it as the amps. So I think there's a lot of flexibility in that. I couldn't tell you how it sounds compared to the Iridium. I've heard with some tweaking and using some other impulse responses and stuff, I've heard like videos where they sound virtually the same. But you have to kind of rethink how you set up the Helix, I guess, to make it sound like the Iridium. So they're both good products. They're just different things. If you're really just wanting to do like direct guitar, The Helix is probably the best all-in-one thing out there. Now, there are other things out there. Boss has a device I have not heard or tried yet that people seem to be happy with. Head Rush, there's people that like the Head Rush stuff. I really can't speak to those because either I'm doing the pedals with the Iridium or I'm doing the completely virtual software like the Positive Grid stuff. Part of me would love to get a Helix, and then part of me realizes that like it would literally not get used, at least until I'm out playing gigs and stuff. It'd be nice to have a board that was literally just like a Helix and an H9 and a couple of drive pedals. That would be like the perfect grab and go. I mean, it would cost as much as my big board. Well, the Helix is what, like $500 or something, the HX Stomp. And then who knows what they're coming out with after the first of the year. You know, you've got the NAMM season is coming up, and we're not having a NAMM show, but all of these companies, have new products to introduce. So I would almost say I wouldn't buy anything right now unless there was something that you were really into that you wanted to pick up at a good price, like at some sort of sale. For me, like, I'm only buying stuff that I have to have right now. And I'm holding off anything else because I think that, there's new stuff kind of on the horizon. I'd be curious to see if Strymon ever does any kind of like Iridium plus effects or something like that. I mean, they have so many things. It'd be neat to see them come out with like the Iridium with the... Actually, if they made a box that was the Iridium and the El Capistan put together, I would buy that like in a heartbeat. Like I would literally just sell something and buy one of those. Yeah, Nels Cline is I used to see Nels Cline in the early 90s. He played around here. His band, there was a band called Bazooka that was like a mini Nels Cline trio that was friends of our group, and we would go see Nels Cline too. And in the early 90s, Nels was kind of a revelation because there was a guy playing these offset guitars and weird stuff, and he was awesome. I was almost not really prepared to understand what he was doing, but the positive thing right now is there's a lot of video, so you can hear how good things typically sound. You can't really hear how bad things sound until you you get it in your own hands. I'm guilty as anyone else of buying stuff based off of like a Pete Thorne or a Sean Tubbs video, and then realizing that in my hands or in my rig it doesn't make any sense. But the reality is that even not being able to go try it, it's almost better to not go to Guitar Center and try stuff out. I think that if you want to buy something, try it and send it back if it doesn't work for you, because most places have a good return policy. I would just try stuff like that until you're happy with what you got. I'm not familiar with the Mooer radar, what features it has. Mooer makes some great stuff and some crappy stuff. I don't know where this falls on that spectrum. I've got their flanger, the Elect Lady flanger, and I think it's great, but I've also I've heard a ton of crappy Mooer pedals my students have brought in too. The Iridium is, you can ask Charles Smurfco. It's if you literally just want to be old school and plug into something that's an amp that plugs into your box and have it just sound like a good plain amp, it just does it. It's great. If you want all the features and the effects built in and you want to tweak things, then you probably should go with one of the other boxes. But I think the Iridium is a great product. I think that if you're looking for something that's going to get you more than just the sound of a Marshall Blackface Fender or Vox, with a mic in front of it, literally, then you got to look at other products. But yeah, I always vote for the Iridium. I'm really happy with mine. Well, it's nice. It's good community of people with advice. Yeah, Nels is awesome. He's like an American treasure of music that doesn't get played on the radio enough. Yeah, it's funny because the whole thing where I would do gigs where I was sitting in on backline stuff or other people's gear. In a way, that was really good for me because literally you have to figure out how to make something work. You have to know what it is that you need to get out of something, see what's there, and usually without messing with other people's settings too much because they get kind of bent about that. Get a sound out of it. All right. And it's not so much about learning the gear, it's about really understanding yourself and what you need and your expectations out of the sound that you're trying to get. That's really the thing, is that at the core of this is you have to develop your own sense of tone. Most good players that I know, and by good I mean experienced people that have a sound, and this is like, I talk about this on, online all the time. It's the whole tone is in your hands versus in the gear BS argument. All right. But at the core of it is that you really should know what you're trying to sound like. All right. And usually you can hear it in your head. You've got this oral imagination. So when I walk up to someone else's amp, or I try something new, it's just subconscious. You turn knobs until you get it close to what you hear in your head. Right? That's the whole like Van Halen Ted Nugent story, where Van Halen sounded awesome, and then Ted Nugent thought he was going to plug into Van Halen's rig at a sound check and sound like Van Halen, and it turns out, Ted Nugent has spatula hands and no ears, and doesn't sound like Van Halen at all. But that's just me not liking Ted Nugent. But but the reality is that as you grow as a player, you have a sense of self, and that sense of self is a lot of, there's a lot of parameters in there, but the one that we're kind of discussing right now is what you sound like, is what your tone is. And some of that has to do with your gear choices, but some of it is also just how you physically play. I'm playing on a Telecaster, right? And I have all of these physical, so the Telecaster has, we're just on the neck pickup of the Telecaster, right? Yeah, and I can play with having everything all the way up, right? Let's turn the pick. I don't know how much this is translating. Right. So the way I'm physically hitting the guitar there gets one sound. All right. You got other. All right. So I can play, if I want to sound like a West Coast blues guy. Right. I'll play more by the bridge. Right. I can, the Keith Richards thing. I used to go, why does he play over the neck? That looks stupid. Same thing. It's all part of your voice. Do you guys hear the dogs? Apparently someone's here for the dogs. All right, so there's this whole, there's the physical element of it. There's how well you understand how to get sounds out of the instrument that you own and the amp that you own. And then there's also using that understanding with different instruments, whether it's a Strat or a 335 or a Jazzmaster, whatever. So there's a lot of parameters that go into your sound, but the most important stuff is really what's in your head. Because that's going to inform how you utilize your hands. That's going to inform how you utilize the gear. I can sound like crap on anything, right? I can sound pretty good on anything too. It just depends on what I'm trying to do. Okay, so that was Terry, Steve. Yeah, honestly, if you like your effects, I would just get the Iridium. That's just me, but there's probably other cheaper things out there. But the Iridium it's solid. Literally, you plug it in and it works, and there's no messing with it. So here's the thing with Neil Young is literally he plays one guitar into one amp. And it's a small low wattage amp. And whatever you think about Neil Young's sound, he understands that gear really well. You know, it's, you know, that's just Neil Young's thing. Well, he's a good example of someone, he's got his sound. Yeah, you know, and that's the thing is it's funny because you know, Matt Flame Ecology on the forum, he always, and I've heard other people say this, you know, everybody should start on an acoustic guitar, and I hate when parents say that when they're signing their kids up for lessons, because that typically means I don't understand guitar, in that arena. But Matt's point, you know, is that if you can make music happen on an acoustic guitar, something sound good, then when you pick up an electric guitar, you've got a lot of control over the instrument. And it's concepts like this, where you pick, how you pick, your strumming technique, the physical part of it. You know, there's all of these things that go into being a good sounding guitar player. Not even a good sounding guitar player, but you know, having a guitar player that has your own sound that's effective for your needs, that have nothing to do with this crap that we buy, right? You know, but you know, the crap that we buy ends up kind of informing that sound, you know, eventually. So so I guess that puts me somewhere, you know, in the middle of the hands versus you know, gear argument. Okay, who is still here right now? I'm probably gonna bail out so I can do Terry's lesson. Today was not what I was expecting to do. I've got all kinds of stuff I guess I'll save for later lesson. Also, I haven't decided what this week's video lesson is going to be, so if you have suggestions before noon today, before I have to start, like, you know, doing all the lesson planning, let me know, because all my conservatory stuff is done for the rest of the year, so I can actually do whatever lessons I want to now. So, all right, guys. Yeah, Joe is right about that. I have this love-hate relationship with Joe Bonamassa because I think that he's a great technician. You know, he's a really good player. He's kind of like the Dave Grohl of like blues rock in a way, for multiple reasons. But I don't love his songs or his music. That's just me. And his playing sounds like he can nail all of this stuff perfectly, but it's rare when I hear something that's like Joe Bonamassa. But the reality is, you can't write off anything like this that he says, because he's right. You got to learn your instrument. So, all right, gentlemen, I'll go. Terry, I will see you on Zoom in like 3 minutes. If you guys could do me a favor and just hit a thumbs up or whatever on the video. I'd appreciate it for the algorithm, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks a lot, guys.